Chapter 3 Burke. Brom, visibly shaken, let out a sharp whistle. One by one the halflings emerged from alleyways and buildings converging around the king. Victus and Kara joined him, all watching and listening with quiet intensity. Brom surveyed the group. "We need to get home quickly. Ideas?" A halfling stepped forward. His voice was small but steady. "The stables were open during the fighting. The horses scattered. It'll take time to round them up." Victus frowned. "Walking will take half a day." Another halfling hesitated. "Could we ask Reggie?" Keenan and I exchanged confused glances. "Who's Reggie?" Rieger, who had been standing silently nearby, snickered. I jumped in surprise, hearing him. "You've got the stealth of a shadow, Rieger. I swear you could vanish in an empty room." Just then Kara leaned in and whispered something to her father. Brom turned to her, concern etched across his face. "Kara, it's too dangerous. You've done enough today." She planted her hands on her hips, blue eyes blazing. "Dad, people could be dying." Brom's expression softened, but he shook his head. "That spell is risky, even when you're rested." Kara didn't flinch. "Reggie said I'm strong enough now. I can move 20 people if I stay focused. It doesn't drain me like it used to." Brom looked towards the rising smoke, torn between fear and urgency. Kara gently took his hand. "Please trust me. I can do this." Victus leaned in. "Sir, this might be one of those moments." Brom sighed, then gave a faint smile. "You too, Victus?" "All right, I trust you both." Keenan stepped forward. "If you'll allow it, I'd like to join. It's my duty to protect the innocent." I smiled. Keenan's heart had always been in the right place. If he was going, I couldn't stay behind. The talk with my uncles would have to wait. Brom nodded. "A paladin's help is always welcome." "But," he began, only to be cut off by Kara. "Up to 20, Dad. They can come." He laughed. "Who's the king here, you or me?" Kara flushed. "I didn't mean—" Brom smiled gently. "It's all right, sweetie. I'm just nervous." He took a breath. "All right, into the circle." We gathered as close to Kara closed her eyes. A shimmering field began to expand around us. I inhaled deeply, shut my eyes, unsure of what was going to happen. A flash of light engulfed us. When I opened my eyes, we stood in a vibrant green countryside. Rolling pastures stretched out beneath a cloudless sky. Wooden fences lined the fields. To the northwest, a castle and a city rose atop a gentle hill. Stone walls and a towering keep dominated the skyline, surrounded by clusters of homes. Bells rang from within as troops poured out of the gates, headed south. To the west, a watchtower overlooked a small village. Flames licked at the rooftops, and the sounds of battle echoed through the valley. Further southwest, the great lighthouse of Onyxia stood tall, smoke curling from its base. The king and I ran towards the smoke, Kara close behind. Rieger had vanished, but I knew he'd return when it mattered. He always did. As we neared the watchtower, the devastation came into focus. Bodies lay strewn across the ground. Villagers, soldiers, and imp-like demons. Burn marks scarred the earth. Homes had been reduced to ash and ruin. It was worse than Grissom, far worse. The sounds of battle faded as we neared the watchtower. Rounding a scorched cottage, we caught sight of Victus driving his blade through the last demon, while Keenan guided a wounded soldier toward a makeshift healer station near the base. The tower loomed over the landscape, its stone foundation wide and rooted deep. 30 feet across at its base, it narrowed as it climbed, rising to a height of 40 feet. The lower stones were rough and weathered, streaked with moss and lichen, nature's quiet reclamation. Arrow-slit windows punctuated the walls, narrow and precise, built for vigilance and defense. Higher up, the masonry grew tighter, smoother, and evidence of ancient craftsmanship. At the summit, the tower flared outward into a crenulated battlement, where faded flags snapped in the wind. I followed Brom inside. The air was cool and damp, thick with the scent of old stone. A spiral staircase wound upward, its steps worn smooth by generations of use. At the top, a wooden trapdoor led to the roof. Inside, soldiers moved with urgency, taking orders from a young man who stood at the center of it all. His presence was commanding, blue eyes sharp, voice steady, movement sufficient. He studied a battle map while issuing orders. His shoulder-length blonde hair framing a face marked by focus and resolve. Brom embraced him. "Perseus, what's the situation?" Perseus's expression darkened. "We were blindsided," he said. An old man and a boy arrived by boat. The coastal watchers helped them up the cliffs, but once ashore, the old man opened a portal, killed the boy, and wounded 2 guards. A third escaped and warned us. The creatures poured through the portal and surged towards the village. "Where's Rannoch?" Brom asked. Perseus gestured towards the lighthouse. "He took his men there. He's trying to close the portal." "We had to dispel a barrier in Grissom to shut one down," Brom said. "Let's hope they were less careful here." "Any word from him?" Perseus shook his head. "Nothing yet. We've posted guards throughout the city in case the Order of Light makes a move. The Queen is safe, secured in her quarters with protection." I stiffened at the mention of the Order of Light. I'd heard whispers. Fanatics who despised magic bent on purging it from the world. Paladins were tolerated sometimes, but even that seemed uncertain. I'd always dismissed it as rumor. Now I wasn't so sure. Perseus continued. "With the village secured, we're preparing to retake the lighthouse. We need to shut down that portal." "What about Greenholm?" Brom asked. "We've sent guards with smoke signals. If they need reinforcements, they'll call." "The emissary sent an eagle to warn the elves." I blinked, trying to absorb it all. "Greenholm? That's where the halflings live, isn't it? And who exactly is this emissary?" Rieger appeared beside me, silent as ever. In a low voice he said, "The emissary is one of my kin, a trusted advisor to Brom. He's working to strengthen ties between our people." I smiled and mouthed, "Thank you." Rieger nodded, then added, "I can see the lighthouse. There are wounded, but no more enemies, no portal." I shook my head, once again amazed by elven sight. A guard burst in, pale and breathless. "We're bringing back wounded. Rannoch is unconscious, badly hurt." Brom didn't hesitate. He bolted for the door, Keenan close behind. Outside, soldiers were already piling imp corpses into pyres. The flames sputtered, struggling to catch. Maybe their bodies resist fire, I thought. A group of armored men approached, carrying a broad-shouldered warrior between them. His armor hung in tatters, revealing a deep gash across his chest and arms. His face was pale, black hair matted with blood, sweat, and dirt. He shivered violently, pain etched into every line of his body. They laid him down gently. Brom rushed to his side, gripping his hand. "Rannoch," he called. Keenan knelt beside him, placing a hand on his forehead and murmuring words I couldn't make out. One of the healers arrived, but froze at the sight of Keenan. "Get away from the king's son," he shouted. "He'll kill him." Brom silenced him with a glare. The healer backed off, still watching Keenan with suspicion. Soldiers gathered, faces tight with concern. Perseus stood among them, blinking back tears. Time stretched. Keenan remained still, hand pressed on Rannoch's brow, his focus unwavering. Finally he exhaled, shoulders sagging with exhaustion. I looked at Rannoch. The sweat had stopped, color was returning to his cheeks. The wounds remained, but something vital had shifted. Keenan rose slowly, drained. "He's stable. Fever is gone, but he'll need time to recover." A ripple of relief passed through the crowd. Healers stepped in. Brom stood and clasped Keenan's hand. "I've heard stories of paladin healing, but never seen it. Thank you. You'll always be welcome in my house." He pulled Keenan into a firm embrace. Keenan stiffened, unsure how to respond. His awkward half-hug made me smile. He'd spent so long being mistrusted he didn't know what to do with kindness. "You're welcome," he muttered as Brom stepped back. The king turned to his soldiers, exchanging nods before his face hardened. "How many did we lose, and what happened at the lighthouse?" Kara rushed to Rannoch's side, helping the healers tend to his wounds. A soldier stepped forward, Xander, one of Rannoch's closest friends and fellow shock trooper. "We avoided the main fight at the village," he began. "Our goal was to cut off reinforcements. When we reached the lighthouse, the portal had already collapsed, but inside we found an old man draining the wounded, pulling their life into a sphere. We think it was feeding the portal." He paused, voice tight. "We attacked and killed him fast. When he died, the orb shattered, knocked us all back. Then the real threat emerged." Xander's eyes darkened. "A demon, huge, 9, maybe 10 feet tall. It came out of the lighthouse." Brom exchanged a grim look with Victus. Xander continued. "Rannoch and I charged. The rest followed. But then 10, maybe 12 smaller creatures poured out. We were down to 5. We tried to hold the line, retreating towards the outer wall. The little ones were relentless, and the big one had hit like a siege ram." He swallowed hard. Frederick took a direct blow from his club. It sent him flying. Before we could reach him, 5 imps swarmed him. He was unconscious. Rannoch jumped in, cut down several, but the big one targeted him. Clawed him twice, then crushed him with its club. Xander's hand trembled. Even then we fought, killed the imps, swarmed the demon. It took 20 solid hits, maybe more, to bring it down, and the whole time it laughed, said something none of us understood. 10 more shock troopers arrived, cutting down the last of the little ones. Xander's voice cracked. He lowered his head, struggling to contain the emotion. Frederick didn't make it, and we nearly lost Rannoch. Brom stepped forward, placing a firm hand on Xander's shoulder. No, he said, voice steady, none of that. You should be proud of what you did here. I am proud of you all. This was a surprise attack, and it could have been far worse. You showed courage and resilience. You proved yourself worthy of this kingdom and of our family. He turned to the gathered soldiers, raising his voice. You are all family. My son and I are honored to fight beside you. Then he raised his hand high. For Burke. The men erupted in cheers, their spirits lifted. Watching them, I couldn't help but smile. No wonder Brom was so beloved. I walked over to Keenan, who leaned heavily on his shield, exhaustion etched into his face. You all right, brother? I asked. He gave a faint smile. Yeah, just haven't done that one in a while. Took a lot out of me. Rieger appeared beside us, eyes scanning the horizon. This area is secure, he said quietly, ever watchful. Brom joined us. His expression was a mix of gratitude and grief. Thank you again. I won't forget your kindness today, he sighed. We lost 12 men, sons, fathers, all with families. His gaze drifted towards Perseus, still directing troops and villagers. It could have been worse, he murmured. Then he turned back to us with a tired smile. I'm lucky to have 2 good sons, and now 3 new friends. Thank you for coming with me. He chuckled softly. Let's hope there are no more attempts on my family's lives today. I need a break. I laughed with him until Kara screamed. She ran towards her father, her cry slicing through the air. Instinctively, we reached for our weapons, scanning for danger. No, 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 she wailed, panic in her voice. Brom knelt beside her, alarmed. What's wrong, sweetheart? She didn't answer directly, only sobbed louder. No, leave my mom alone. The ground trembled beneath us. I looked around, seeing confusion mirrored in every face. Kara screamed again. No, leave her alone. A blinding flash engulfed us. When the light faded, we were no longer in the field. We stood in a large chamber. A massive bed dominated the center, a warm fire flickering to the right while sunlight streamed through high windows to the left. Stone walls and floors? Castle architecture? I wondered, confused. Behind us loomed a heavy wooden door. We stood in silence, adjusting to the sudden shift. Brom blinked. My room? Kara collapsed, drained. Rieger drew his bow and whispered company before melting into the shadows. Across the room stood a striking woman, dark features, black hair, encased in a glowing magical barrier. Brom gasped. Aaron? He whispered, stunned. Beside the barrier stood a servant girl, clutching a knife. Her face was a storm of sorrow and resolve. You shouldn't be here, she said, voice trembling. Brom stepped forward, cautious. What's happening? She raised the blade towards the queen. Brom froze. Stay back, she warned. Annie, why? Brom pleaded. Tears welled in her eyes. You know why, she said bitterly. You hide her, but she's a danger to us all. She must be stopped. Don't do this, Annie. We can help you, Brom said, his voice low but urgent. She gave a bitter laugh. Help me? Your arrogance will be your undoing. Her gaze softened for a moment. You were always kind to me, and for that, I'm sorry. Before anyone could move, she turned and drove the knife into the queen's heart. A twang split the air. Rieger's arrow struck Annie in the shoulder. She cried out and collapsed, sobbing. Brom lunged forward, catching Aaron as she fell from the magical barrier. Keenan set his shield down and stood over her, despair in his eyes. He knew the wound was beyond his ability to heal. Rieger dragged Annie away, his grip firm but not cruel. Brom cradled his wife's limp body, tears breaking through ragged breaths. No, please no, he whispered. I stood frozen, helpless. Then I saw Keenan staring at his shield, eyes wide with surprise. He moved quickly, gently nudging Brom aside. He pulled the dagger free, placed both hands over the wound, and began to speak. The language was unfamiliar, fluid, melodic, resonant with power. Energy surged in the room. Light built around Keenan's hands, then burst in a flash. When it faded, Keenan collapsed. I rushed to him. Keenan! Before I reached him, Erin gasped. She coughed, blinking in confusion. Brom pulled her close, tears streaming. it's okay, honey, you're safe, he whispered. You're safe. She smiled weakly, resting in his arms. I turned to Keenan, lifting him gently. Wake up, buddy, I said, shaking him. His eyes opened slowly, exhaustion etched deep. Did it work? He murmured. I glanced at the Queen, alive and breathing. Relief flooded me. Yeah, I said, smiling. It worked. Keenan gave a faint nod. Sleep, he whispered, and passed out. Guards burst into the room, startled by the crowd. They scanned the windows. Annie, Brom, and the Queen. Rieger pointed to Annie. One guard stepped forward and escorted Annie out. Brom began explaining everything that had happened to Aaron, who listened quietly, her hand in his. Moments later, Perseus arrived, breathless. He spotted Kara and lifted her gently into the bed. Then he joined his parents, listening as Brom recounted the events. Not wanting to interrupt, I touched Perseus's shoulder. Is there a place Keenan can rest? Before he could answer, Brom's voice rang out. Absolutely not. I turned, startled. Brom stood beside the Queen, his usual warmth returning. He'll sleep in the family's guest quarters, he declared. Then to the guards, see that he gets whatever he needs. I glanced at Perseus, who smiled faintly. He didn't yet grasp what had happened, but he knew it mattered. With help from the guards, we carried Keenan to the guest room. It was simple, elegant. Stone walls adorned with woven tapestries softened the chill and celebrated the kingdom's artistry. Above, a vaulted ceiling revealed carved wooden beams, each one etched with patterns that spoke of legacy and skilled craftsmen. At the heart of the room stood a grand four-poster bed, its frame carved from dark wood and draped in velvet curtains dyed a deep royal blue. Thick quilts and embroidered pillows layered the bedding, each feather-filled and plush, offering a rare touch of opulence. Overhead, a canopy lined with fine fabric shielded against the draft, completing the sense of quiet luxury. At the foot of the bed rested a solid oak chest, ready to hold the guest's belongings. Nearby, a polished writing desk stood beside a high-backed chair, its surface artfully arranged with sheets and vellum, a quill, and an inkpot. Wrought iron sconces lined the walls, each cradling a beeswax candle whose golden glow danced across the stone. By day, the sunlight streamed through a single arched window, casting long, warm shadows. To ward off the evening chill, a small fireplace had been built into one wall, its mantel adorned with delicate carvings. A tidy stack of firewood waited nearby. In one corner, a washstand held a ceramic basin and pitcher, with fresh linens folded beside them. Above it, a polished metal mirror reflected the flickering candlelight. A woven rug softened the cold stone floor, and two upholstered chairs sat near the hearth, inviting quiet conversation or rest. The room felt regal, more refined than the king's own chambers, which caught me off guard. Once I ensured Keenan was settled, the guards led me to an adjoining room. Exhausted from the day's chaos, I lay down and drifted to sleep almost instantly.